who has a toddler, who has a very, very determined toddler? A 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, a nearly 4-year-old, an 18-month-old, and how are they going with their emotions? Do they melt down a lot? I like to avoid the word tantrum because it's not a very nice use of the term. I like to talk about expression of emotions, very strong expression of emotions if your child is anything like my 3-year-old. But it's entirely normal for 2-year-olds, 18-month-olds, younger than that even. Yeah, my 3-year-old started pretty early, and 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and even older than that to have times where they struggle to obviously calm themselves down because their brains literally aren't wired to be able to calm themselves down quickly. Their brains are very new, not spent a lot of time on the planet, and they're struggling with all sorts of things like realizing that they're capable of doing certain things but having a great deal of time that's out of control for them. So their parents kind of set the rules and the boundaries, which is appropriate, but toddlers want to be able to challenge that because they know that they have capability to do so as they get older, as they spend more time on the planet, and they know that they like things. So having someone telling them no, or they can't have something, can become a real control battle. And also that they find it harder to control their moods or regulate when they are tired, hungry, whether they've had a lot of time away from their parents. So there's all sorts of reasons, and I could talk about it a lot more, but because the time's going to go quickly, just some really basic things that you can do for meltdowns, because I get a lot of people asking about that. And again, I want to kind of trust that you don't have to take this as the gospel truth, that there are lots of other ways, I guess, that you can handle it. But I like to come from the psychology perspective, of emotion regulation, and actually what's true for toddlers is still true for adults as well to some degree. So it's nice to come from the perspective of actually what's happening in a brain, when it's in a meltdown mode. So if we can kind of help the emotional part of our brain, then we can help to nurture the emotion and calm the emotion down. And then we can help to kind of teach what we want as a desired behaviour after the person has calmed down, so after the toddler's calmed down. So you're not going to get much teaching done with a brain that's really dysregulated. So the most important thing that you can do is, first of all, number one, is to help regulate yourself first. So if you want your child to be calm, you're going to have to be calm yourself. Super hard, right? Especially if you're doing it all day, you're tired, you're exhausted, you've got other kids as well. It's really hard to be calm. I totally get that. And I still struggle with that myself. But it's certainly something that, taking breaths, dropping your anchor. If you've read my book, you might know about dropping anchor. You can go to actmindfully.com.au. I'll include the link to dropping anchor and knowing a little bit more about what that means. So, doing that first, breaths, dropping anchor, getting down on the level of your toddler. So getting down rather than looking up. If this is you up here and your toddler's down here, it's nice to be able to kind of make a connection and hop down right on their eye level. So crouching down and looking them in the eye. If they don't want you near them, which is quite possible too, you might even need to get some distance from them. So you might want to squat down away from them, 1 metre away, 2 metres away. And make sure that you're kind of helping them to know there's a connection there. Soft words, and just saying things like, don't say too much is probably the key, because again, a melting down brain can't really hear the words very well. So the best way is kind of act calm, be from a distance or be close by if they want that, and validate. Seems like you're really angry. You look really angry. You're really mad. You're mad because you can't have any more crackers, or whatever it is that they're having a meltdown. So just validation. Simply, okay, you look really mad. Gee, you're really sad. You're really sad. you're really mad, things like that. Or say nothing. If nothing's working, just don't say anything. The best thing that you can do is kind of just model calm. Don't say anything, don't add any words, or kind of engaging in an argument with them about why they shouldn't be mad about crackers. All you want to do is validate first and then wait for the calm to pass, which can be a long time. I hear you on that. My 3-year-old is good. She'll chuck out a whole hour, like where that's what she'll be just locked in. Sometimes when she just locks into a meltdown, she's locked in and nothing will change it. And that's okay. You don't necessarily need to change your child's emotions. We just want to work with validating. And then we can look at the calm down activities later, potentially. Like once they're calm, you can kind of talk about what you might have done instead. And also sometimes trying to give them what they want later. So it might be, if they're melting down about crackers, you might say, look, that you've had enough crackers for now, or I don't want you to have any more crackers. But this afternoon, for afternoon tea, you can have some more crackers. So finding ways that you can actually say yes, but later. So with a boundary still. So boundaries are important. And again, like it's not bad for your toddler if they're upset. Like this is not a bad thing. And you don't have to distract them out of their mood necessarily. Like it's okay for them to be angry. It's okay for them to be sad. Obviously, it's not okay for them to do things like hitting in that time. And you might need to try and protect yourself, or you might even need to potentially protect them or others or cats or dogs or siblings around. So as best you can, just trying to kind of moderate that situation and be calm and ride through the roller coaster or the storm. I guess the other thing is as well, like it's always good to try and predict, to know when your toddler's going to be more likely to have meltdowns and kind of prepare for that time and make some connection time before it gets to that point. So making connections as a preventative is really helpful for meltdowns. Things like just knowing that your toddler's going to be more likely to melt down if they haven't had breakfast yet, or if you've left breakfast for too long, or if it's lunchtime. Have they had lunch, or have they had their morning tea? Are they tired? How much sleep did they get the night before? Did they wake up a bit earlier? Those sorts of things. And also just knowing the trigger times, I guess, potentially, like maybe before you're about to leave the house. So just spending some time making some connection before you leave the house. So spending time sitting down, cuddling, playing on the floor, all sorts of ways, I guess, that you can just make a very brief connection. But again, it's okay for toddlers to melt down. It's okay for them to express themselves. So it's not a bad thing. Some toddlers like to express themselves more than others. And yeah, trying to sidestep arguments, so not trying to sort of really engage with a meltdown too much is really the best thing. So because it just becomes a real control battle, and you'll want to avoid control battles if you can. I know I still get into them, so again, like it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect with this, but as a general guide, that's a useful way to approach meltdowns. I'd love to hear what you think. And definitely follow the work of Janet Lansbury, Our Heart Parenting, Laura Markham's site. So they have kind of got some similar approaches of making connections, but certainly giving boundaries and being like a calm CEO is something that Janet Lansbury always says, which is definitely easier said than done, I always think, when she says that. But just being kind of the firm leader. So that's an important thing, because actually kids like it when they know that they have a consistent, firm leader. So again, not always easy to do that. But so that's just my thoughts on toddlers and meltdowns, because a few people have been asking about it. I would love to hear what you think and how you approach the meltdowns and what works for your child, because again, like what works for your child is the most important thing. So what works for my 6-year-old has not necessarily worked for my 3-year-old. So you've definitely got to trust your own judgment and collect lots of different information that resonates with you, and I guess remind yourself it'll pass eventually. Eventually they will get, more able to kind of cope and regulate. And especially kind of if you're just working with this emotional intelligence of teaching them and validating them and giving them some ways to calm down after they've calmed down, if that makes sense. So do teaching once they've calmed down. That's always a good way, and predict like when they are more likely to melt down as well. So you're spending the time connecting before they get to that point. So that's my thoughts about that. And I would also love it if you could fill out a survey for me. So I've been asking parents what the sort of things that they struggle with and what they'd like help with. So I've had lots of information coming back from the surveys. It's been really interesting to read them, and I'll compile all the information too and put it together, and also I'll be answering some of the problems or giving my thoughts about some of the problems that parents are having. So have a good day. I hope everything is well in your house, and if it's not, I hope that you're finding some ways to get some time out and look after yourself. So see you soon.